Szeretettel köszöntök mindenkit, ismét innen Strasbourgból jelentkezem az Európa Tanács heti üléséről, és még mindig az Európai Parlamentben tartjuk az üléseinket. Ezért van az, hogy sokan nem értik, hogy mondjuk az ukrán képviselők miért vannak itt. Azért, mert ugye az Európa Tanács az egy nagyobb, vagy ha úgy tetszik, tágabb intézmény, tehát minden európai ország tagja, nem pusztán az Európai Uniót képviseljük itt, és hát ezen a héten is nagyon érdekes témákról vitatkozunk, és szerettem volna két olyan témához is hozzászólni, ami nagyon fontos lett volna számunkra, magyarok számára is. Természetesen a migrációval kapcsolatos témákról volt szó, de nem kerültem sorra, ugyanis az időkeretet is átlépve rendkívül szenvedélyes vita bontakozott ki az izraeli-palesztin konfliktusról. Nagyon jó lenne, hogyha az európai politikusok legalább ennyire szenvedélyesen kiállnának az európaiak érdekéért, mint mondjuk a palesztinok vagy az izraeliek érdekéért. Érdekes volt egyébként Oleksij Goncsarenko felszólalása, aki ukrán nacionalista képviselő, vele rendszeresen szoktak vitáim lenni, és most annak a bizottságnak lett az elnöke, a migrációval foglalkozó bizottságnak lett az elnöke, aminek én is tagja vagyok, és nagyon határozottan és szenvedélyesen kiállt Izrael mellett a palesztinokkal szemben. Szóval nagyon jó lenne, hogyha legalább ennyire szenvedélyesen tudnának küzdeni az európai politikusok az európai ügyekért. Most lesz alkalmam még egy ilyen jellegű témával kapcsolatban megszólalni. Ez a média helyzetéről szól majd, a sajtószabadságról szól. Természetesen az előterjesztés, mint ahogy lenni szokott, nem a lényeggel foglalkozik, nem azzal, hogy ma már a közösségi média a legfontosabb véleményformáló eszköz, és elsősorban a közösségi média az, amely befolyásolja a választásokat. Hát a közösségi média, ami általában itt Európában amerikai gyökerű globális nagyvállalatokat jelent, a média függetlenség szempontjából nagyon fontos, hogy ezeket hogyan szabályozzák. Úgy tűnik, hogy ezek bármit megtehetnek, ezek a nagyvállalatok befolyásolhatják a választásokat, úgyhogy ezzel kapcsolatban fogok ma felszólalni. Nézzék meg, hogy mi történik a vitában.
In any tragedy, there are those who are guilty in it. And I don't know who we should be after what had happened on October 7, then trying not to recognize the fact that Hamas are terrorists, and they made from Gaza their fortress, unfortunately. That's the problem.
Today, we have new the death of more than 20 Israeli soldiers. There is no one more responsible for what is happening in Gaza today than Hamas and their supporters.
Inevitably, Gaza civilians will be killed as Israel defends itself, which it has the right to do. And we need to be sceptical about the Hamas terrorist Ministry of Health figures for civilian casualties, which may be grossly exaggerated. Of course, about 12,000 of these so-called civilians are actually Hamas terrorists themselves.
Deputy Speaker of the Knesset, Nissim Vaturi, stated, "Now we all have one common goal, erasing the Gaza Strip from the face of the earth." In the words of the great Jewish writer Gideon Levy, if all of this does not constitute genocide, then what is it? How do we describe it?
This was the deadliest attack against the Jewish people in a single day since the Holocaust. We were attacked simply for being Jewish living in Israel.
However, in the case of the atrocities committed by Israel, the stance of the Council of Europe and the Assembly in particular has been the most disappointing experience thus far. Even though we correctly condemned Hamas' terrorist attack on Israel on the 7th of October, as it also targeted innocent civilians, we have for 105 days turned a blind eye to the tragic situation of the Palestinians in Gaza. Not only did this organization not condemn the situation, regrettably, it has not even voiced criticism, nor prompt the consideration of an alternative reaction on the part of Israel. Even though the UN has documented the following realities, no statement was made as regards the massive murder of thousands of civilians, the majority of whom were women and children, including also 75 journalists, UN staff, as well as medical and paramedical personnel. This organization remained silent, whilst Israel made Gaza uninhabitable by destroying housing units and infrastructure, including hospitals, schools, refugee camps, churches and mosques, in blatant violation of international humanitarian law.
Up until now, 25,000 people have already died, among whom there are 7,000 women, 10,000 children, 120 journalists, 4,000 sick people who have died for lack of medicine. More than 60,000 people have been wounded. 80,000 people are missing under the ruins of the buildings.
Unfortunately, we see more and more trends that endanger a healthy media ecosystem. Social media and digitalization have become disruptive factors, but there are more. The financing of public media services as well of commercial media has come under pressure. The first victims are those non-commercial media outlets and media that are the expression of local perspectives or of cultural diversity.
Dear colleagues, these two reports should act as a warning bell here in this Assembly. For some years now, we've seen more and more conflicts around us, and as we often hear, the first victim of war is truth. Journalists and independent media become targets. Instability provoked by this current geopolitical context also act as an alibi for certain governments to limit fundamental freedoms. In Turkey, for example, journalists, politicians and lawyers are regularly locked up to make them shut up. Let's move on to Mr. László Toroczkai from Hungary.
Vous avez la parole.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to address our grandchildren, not you, especially not those politicians who are destroying Europe with their open borders policy or with their censorship. We want a truly free world and the freedom of speech. This report talks about attacks on journalists and free media. All these attacks on journalists must be condemned and prevented. There is no question about that. But this report is extremely incomplete and one-sided because there is government propaganda and then there is the propaganda of international, but mostly US-based financial circles and global corporations. The report does not mention the latter. There is not a single word about social media, for example, which is now the most important form of media, and social platforms have much more power and influence. They influence voters with their algorithms, with political censorship. Today, everyone can be a journalist, as anyone can create videos and articles and publish them on social media platforms, reaching many more people than traditional media ever could. The owners of social media hold as much power as governments. In fact, their power is even bigger. While it is difficult, but the people have the chance to change a government by an election or by replacing bad politicians. The owners of social media, mostly American billionaires, are untouchable. They can't do anything. Nobody elected them, yet they rule. They can censor and silence opinions they don't like. They constantly censor, among other things, news related to migration, but they do the same. They apply double standards when they allow the traditional male-female roles, relationships, the traditional family model to be attacked in the most violent way, but also the increasingly aggressive LGBTQ propaganda is not allowed to be criticized. For example, 4 years ago, Meta deleted my Facebook and Instagram pages without any explanation.
Meanwhile, it turned out that a rival political party in Hungary was behind Facebook censorship. I filed a lawsuit against Meta, but despite winning the case and being ordered by the court to reinstate my Instagram page, to this day, Meta has not done so. Meta is committing an openly illegal act, and no one cares. This is what they do to millions of people. When you talk about free media, consider this as well. Thank you very much.